Hi, everyone. Welcome to Project Pro's industry podcast on GenAI specific enterprise use cases. Today, we have with us Arghya. Arghya has a career of over 20 years, of which the last 7, 8 years have been largely focused on data analytics and AI. Most recently, Arghya is the growth lead for data and Gen AI for Northeast Americas at Accenture. Previously, Arghya was the practice director and portfolio head for data analytics and AI at Wipro, where he was actually awarded the Best Sales Practitioner award, which is quite a big deal at a company which is a $30 billion company like Wipro, where he also managed a team of over 1,000 associates, and primarily working with large North American enterprises, providing thought leadership around AI and data science solutions, and also implementing and taking these to deployment and providing business outcomes to these enterprises. Arghya, thank you so much for taking time to join us today.
Binny, thank you actually for inviting me to also learn and share whatever I know in this space. Large space, I'm a small party, but whatever I know, I will share.
Thank you. Thank you. We're all looking forward to it. Arghya, since most of your time you're on the road meeting large enterprise customers, and you are focused on the banking and financial services and insurance industry, right? So people seem to expect Gen AI as this magic wand that they can wave across problems and it will magically give out outcomes. Can you maybe help us understand what kind of use cases are really doable, and what kind of use cases are still in the magic land, which is still not as far away? Could you maybe help us understand that?
Yeah, Binny, I would say yes, Gen AI is on everybody's mind. Every proposal that we give, Gen AI would be a part of it.
Yeah.
And you're right. Client wants that to be a magic wand. But before I go to the Gen AI part of it, one thing which I want to just make sure we all understand is Gen AI is not a new thing. It has been there for a long time. 2003, 2004, when we were doing the Google Translate from one language to another, that's Gen AI in a way. But right now with the compute power, which have just grown like a hockey stick, it is becoming an everyday commodity. Becoming, I mean, it's not there yet, but becoming. But another point I want to mention is, yes, we go ahead. Client wants Gen AI to be a part of their process every time. But what I have seen my personal experience is when I go in to understand the problem statement in a bigger way, it's always the data that's the problem. So data are in silos, especially in large legacy organization in big banks. Data are in silos.
Yeah.
And when you integrate together from system to system, there's a big problem. So Gen AI is a top shiny part of it, but the main thing that we need to understand while doing Gen AI case is how to get the data corrected in the way that it fits the Gen AI model in the right way. Yeah. So yes, and in talking about use cases, I think there is a lot of proliferation of Gen AI in financial services. Speaking of two, and we can go deeper into there, is one of them would be, how do you better predict the approval for a customer who is applying for a loan? So how do you make that use case more automatic with Gen AI? How do you build that use case? Then in wealth management, another use case is how do you make sure that you're giving the right kind of suggestions to your customers in wealth management? Can they have a portal where they can find new products which they can invest into? And given the background that we have for that particular client, how do you make it more proactive and all this? So those are kind of use cases that are there. In a way. Most normal use cases would be, for example, if you have a let's say a large Excel sheet. We still are in the Excel sheet world, right? Right now. So if you have a large Excel sheet and you want to understand what is there in the Excel sheet, you don't need to write SQL codes anymore right now. You just put it out in ChatGPT 4 or .0, and ask some questions. It will give you the answers.
Right.
So those are kind of small use cases which you are starting to see happening, and it's not related to financial or any industry type. It's like all across.
Yeah.
And then you get an understanding for it. Then another use cases which people are using more often is how do you summarize meetings, and how do you see what is coming out of the meeting. So those are the use cases, Binny, which is proliferating in the market. But again, just from my knowledge, it's at an inflection point right now. The maturity is still not there, but we are going really fast to that matured area where IT is right now.
Okay. That's a very interesting comparison you made, that it is where it is IT used to be in 1990s or things like that. So for example, on one of those use cases, Arghya, which is this predicting if a specific loan applicant should be given a loan or not, right? Now, traditionally, I guess banks would use some kind of a classification model or something to do that. So what kind of new outcomes are customers expecting by using GenAI for solving that kind of a problem that has been solved for the last almost 10 years using traditional data science, machine learning?
Yeah, good question. So let me reframe that question. The question is, how can GenAI enhance this model and be more customer friendly? So let's take the first use case, which is around that customer loan application approval and all. So I think there can be 5 ways where GenAI can help here. So number one is, data augmentation with generative AI. So what I mean by that? So, generative AI techniques such as, GANs or VAEs, the variational autoencoders, they can be employed to generate the synthetic data that closely resemble the original training data set. So in this particular kind of data set, maybe the default data is very low, maybe 2% of the approval data. So, and you cannot make a good model out of it. So generative AI can help address data scarcity issue and enhance the diversity of the training data set by creating this additional, synthetic samples representing various borrower profile and credit scenarios. And that can be done very easily right now. So that is one area where GenAI can help in this case. Number 2 can be I was pertaining to it, like addressing the imbalanced classes in this whole data set, right? So credit risk data set, often exhibit class imbalance, where the number of positives, here the positive would be default instances is significantly lower than the negative use cases, which is like people are actually getting approved. Now, GenAI can use to generate those synthetic positive instances to balance the class. And when you balance the class in the data set, you get more, real models built out of it. Right? The third one would be, about creating the underlying data distributions. So when you have a data set, you can use the generative AI to understand the distributions of those data sets. And you can, have that, capture that complex relationship and patterns are present in the training data set. So it will again, help you understand the data better. And by understanding the data, it will create much more better models, I would say. The fourth one, which I was thinking in my mind, would be, it's a combination of all this. You can improve the model robustness of it. So imagine, you're augmenting this training data, with synthetic data, generative. You are using a wider range of data samples. So that also can make you the prediction much better and approval decision much better. So those are kind of, and again, the final one, I would say again, comes to the feedback of it. So when you're using this data set and you are getting the output from it, you can talk to the generative AI, technology to say what is the problem that we are getting, give them the answers, and you can also use generative AI to kind of have the feedback, and maybe retrain the model, maybe do some tweaks on the parameters that you have used.
Yeah.
So does it answer your question? So I think that's a great way where you can use this generative AI part.
Okay, that's actually very well said, those 5 points. Basically, augmenting, enhancing the quality of the underlying data, unearthing patterns that otherwise would have been very difficult to miss, and then finally, just your interaction with the model itself.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. So now, since you deal with end-to-end machine learning kind of projects, could you maybe help us understand how that process works? You sit with a client, you go through various use cases. From there to eventually taking a model or a project into deployment, what does that flow and process look like step by step?
So, Binny, a good way to kind of engage with your client is on a consultative basis, putting on your consulting hat. So what I mean by that is you should be ready to give to the client what they need, not necessarily what they want always. Because they want something, and when you get into it, you find that the need is a little different.
Yeah.
So if you are engaging with that customer on a daily basis, and in my instance, Binny, I have a large team, right? So there are many senior architects who are there in all the projects that is getting executed on a daily basis. So when I talk to them, I find that there are areas where we can be really helpful to the client, and putting GenAI as a part of it. I'll give you a small example. AI. So there was this one bank where they had a credit card department, they had a loan department, and the usual, the will department and all this, right?
Yeah.
Now, Binny has a credit card.
Yeah.
Binny also has a loan. Now, these two customers are different in the system, but he was the same person. He was Binny. You are the same person who has a loan and who has a credit card with the bank. Now, if I just combine these two together, there's a wealth of information that I can get.
Right.
And I can probably talk to you only one time instead of the credit card department calling you once and the loan department calling you once. And we can cross-sell a lot of products to you.
Right.
So in that case, if I can combine this with AI saying, hey, you know what? Binny's email ID, Binny's date of birth, and it's a very simple thing, like a fuzzy logic matching and all this. And I can combine together and say, hey, customer 360, this is a person who is Binny and he owns this two product. And I think he can be upgraded to this product or something like that. I can make a lot of valid interactions with you.
Yeah.
And then if you have a savings account with me or something account, I can see your spending pattern and advise you, previously saying, hey, you know what? You would be short of your money when your mortgage is coming in the on 15th of this month. Because you don't have that money right now, or you will spend in the next 7 days. Please put it on. So it's a very short window where I can use those algorithms using your data to tell you which is important to you. Otherwise, you would have defaulted on your mortgage and there was a penalty for it. I have saved you on that penalty.
Yeah, I think I might need that service.
All these things are fine. So when you talk to the customer, you tell them about these possibilities. For example, a business customer will be intrigued by the experience that I just shared. You are helping your customers to stop that penalty of mortgage paying and all.
Yeah.
He would be intrigued by that. But now how you do that? Next, he will tell me, okay, go and talk to my technical part, see if it is possible there.
Right.
So that's when I go to the technical person. Go to the dashboard or the big whiteboard, draw out the process that they currently have.
Yeah.
And see how soon or how well we can integrate with it.
Right.
What are the data point that I need to make that model?
Yeah.
I have entire customer data, their name, their demographics, their credit score, everything I have.
Yeah.
I have already a model which is built somewhere, like an accelerator. I bring it up and see what is needed. I do the feature analysis and I say, okay, this is a small model and go ahead and implement it.
Right.
A very simple example. So when this technical person gives me what it needs, that's when the real kind of solutioning begins. I bring my senior architects in, build that model. If most of the financial clients are on-prem, they don't want to go to cloud first right now. So give them a solution on-prem, bring those models, do a prototype, and then make that SOW done, get the people in, and start working on it. So that's the usual case.
Okay, that's great. I mean, it looks like the highest leverage part of this is kind of very early on, where you don't just rush into the first problem that client tells you. You take a step back and see what is the final outcome they need and suggest other ideas there.
Yes. And I can give you another example here because examples makes it much better. So it was during the pandemic time. And I was working with a big bank, retail customer, not bank actually. And they were having this collections issue. So they have this credit card, which they gave, and they were having this collection issues because people were defaulting. It was a crisis. They didn't have money and people were defaulting. And what happened was this customer care head, who was my main stakeholder, he said, "Hey, Arghya, you know what? My call volume have increased 4 times, but my collection have been 1/3 because people were not paying. My people need to call them, and that's why that 4 times call volume. And people are not paying, so my collection is already low, right?" And he was thinking of going to the CEO to ask for more bandwidth, more people, more headcount in his area, and that is obviously one solution. So here I asked myself, can I help this guy? So I said, "Hey, can I see at the problem statement? Can I sit with your customer care?" So I went ahead myself and shadowed 2 customer care who was dealing with this issue. And Vinny, I found the problem to be this only. So at the beginning of the day, a customer care was receiving, let's say, 100 people to call. And they have bandwidth to call only 25 people. So what they were doing was they were randomly selecting 25 people from that list. There was no science to it. It was all random. So I said, can I do something where I can tell this guy, hey, if you call Binny, the propensity that Binny will pay is higher than if you call Arghya. So call Binny if you have to call only one person. So can I make that 100 people a ranked list? So there is an algorithm in the industry, Markov decision processing, the stateless kind of an algorithm, which you can use to do exactly this. So I have the 100 customer data. I have my main principal data scientist inside that client organization. We worked for a week or so, brought up that algorithm up with the customer data that already had the 100 people and all the people, right? And then I ran a pilot with them saying, hey, give me 2 weeks to work with 2 persons. So what I did was nothing. What we did was nothing. We got that 100 list. We ran that 100 list through the algorithm and just created a propensity to pay algorithm. Like 90%, 199% and all this, and said, okay, this is the list, 92 all the way to 0%. You call only this top 25 people. And they did it for two weeks, and we got a 30% increase in collection. That's the inflection point. So I have proved to my client that this is working. And now I can do it enterprise wide. So I can implement it enterprise wide to all his customers. It's a big retail customer. That was a project I got, more than a multi-million-dollar project, and they got implemented to it.
Fantastic.
So you need to engage with the problem statement, but not necessarily the problem. The answer you will get from the stakeholders. You have to deep dive into it to get into the problem statement and then make the solution. Makes sense?
Makes sense. Makes more sense. And this actually triggers a follow-up question, Arghya, which is slightly tangential to the core topic, which is, how does somebody cultivate these skill sets to have this kind of engagement with a customer? So what kind of people end up being good at this? Is it a developer who becomes an architect who eventually does it? Or is it some other career path of people who end up being good at this kind of skill set? What have you noticed? How do you train your team to do this?
Awesome question. I think this is a matter of somebody who is at the heart of problem solving.
Right.
Doesn't matter if he's technical business or if he's a business analyst for me. If he has that attitude of problem solving, that's the guy who would be good at this. So the curiosity in you will make you question. So if you, so that's what I said. I mean, when I give instructions to my people, I always ask, if you are not understanding something, and you should ask me the question, why are you doing this? Why are you making that code like that? Because you might have a better answer to it than me, what I'm doing. I shouldn't be prescriptive to you.
Yeah.
So that means the person who is working with my client on a day-to-day basis, and if he is receiving an instruction from that client, he should ask the question why. And if he has a better answer, put it in front of the stakeholder.
Right.
So if you can do that, no matter if you are a business analyst or a technical person or anybody, you can inculcate this habit of problem solving for the client and make the client look big in front of his boss. That's what you want.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. That's well said. And once you've identified kind of these problems within a customer, especially, for example, in BFSI, right, where there are lots of problems around like loan prediction or lots of problems around just understanding large volumes of documents and things like that. So how does a client decide, do they want to use an off-the-shelf SaaS software to solve that, or do they want to get a custom solution workflow built for that? How is that decision usually made?
Again, a very good question. And I have a trend. I've noticed a trend here.
Okay.
And this is my personal opinion. People might differ from my opinion here. What I've seen is early days, people were more inclined to build custom solutions. Like they have a problem, they define the problem well, they bring in like 4 people, 2 data scientists, 2 data engineers, and solve it, making a custom built application in their ecosystem.
Okay.
But right now, with all the new product platforms coming in, I'm leaving AWS, I'm leaving GCP, I'm leaving Azure, the big natives. But there's Snowflake. Snowflake is also very big. Shouldn't be telling that. Data robots, small data IQs and all this. They have great platforms right now.
Yeah.
So what I'm noticing is for Accenture's, Wipro's, TCS and all this, they have a great alliance partnership with all these people like Data IQ, Snowflake, Data Robot, you name it, we have partnership with them. Yeah. Now, when we go with a solution, the stakeholder, if they see an integration partner or a solution partner like us with a product vendor like a Snowflake or Data Robot or Data IQ putting together that solution, that is more acceptable to them right now because it's already solved. They have it in the industry and they are more receptive right now to get that product into their environment and figure it out.
Makes sense.
And I have a lot of use cases, Binny. For example, a large bank, they are right now trying to get away from SaaS because there are modern platforms which do better than SaaS in some areas, of course. But they're already stuck to it because it's a huge enterprise-wide, geography-wide, country-wide platform that they have right now.
Right.
So to answer your question in one sentence, right now I'm seeing the trend to get products from outside. But I would say if it is very strategic, if it is something that they need to do on an exploratory basis, like some data crunching is required an ad hoc analytics project, they would do it in-house.
Okay.
But if it's an enterprise-wide where end customers are involved and you do it on a daily basis, they will go with a product with solution partners like us.
Makes sense, actually. That's pretty insightful. So, while they're implementing a project and they're deciding on a tech stack, and today focus on GenAI tech stack, right? Because we only hear about OpenAI in the news mostly, do enterprises just default to Azure and OpenAI for their GenAI foundation model, or do they objectively gauge OpenAI, Claude, or the open source ones like Llama? Do they look at it objectively, or everybody just get carried away by the OpenAI? What's happening?
It's a mix. Many. So the foundation models that are there right now are really great for all these LLMs and everybody. So what they do is they take the backbone because they don't want to put the data outside. They take the backbone, get it inside, retrain them on their own data set, and make it a new product, which they call something else. Like a Sony or Alex or something like that. And it's essentially the same thing. You're getting, so think of it as you have a model running with this LLMs, OpenAIs and all. You're getting that model. But you're retraining that model with your own inside data. And then you're using it in your platform. So people can chat with that interface, let's say Alex, and get the data. For example, another use case there would be like, there is a HR team who wants to have an interactive wide thing like form fill up and all this. Now they have the data. So for example, Binny, if you are the head of, let's say, HR, and you are typing in what is the salary of Argo, so you are getting the answer from Alex. Let's say Alex is the GenAI tool internally that you have. But there's one problem here. Not everybody should know my salary. So you should be authorized to know that, you should be authorized to know that, to know my salary. So when you are asking that question, there is a guardrail inside that before it goes to the OpenAI platform or the model. Is being authorized to get this data? If he is yes, then only it passes through. Otherwise, it doesn't pass through. So also is a very big area. The guardrails, putting the guardrails around GenAI is a very, very big area that will enhance in the future.
Especially in the financial services industry. I would
financial, think, right? Name it, financial, healthcare, every industry will need this guardrail.
Right. Are there some interesting innovations or tools or developments you have seen in the governance or the guardrail aspect of it that you're pretty excited about recently?
Yes, there are many. Actually, there are many products which are actually thriving on producing those guardrails for certain industries. So they are making that as their product feature.
Okay.
So they are bringing it in. So for example, if a financial client comes in, then certain PII informations will not be there, making some models out of it, and they're selling it in the market, and you're integrating it.
Got it. Okay. So last year was probably the year where there was lots of GenAI POCs happening, and you're probably beginning to see many of these projects go into deployment. What are some of the characteristics of these projects that move from POC to deployment? What makes a few of them successful and the other ones not stay in POC stage?
Yeah, that's again a very, very good question. And again, we have not yet come up with the answer yet. Still evolving. And it's a very contextual question and contextual answer also, Binny. So let me give you one perspective.
Sure.
Let's say that you are a company which is very highly on the output of with the customer. So customer can interact with you a lot, and that customer always interacts with you with a live chat, with a live agent, or with a live kind of let's say over the phone and all, right? So let's take the chat, for example, like you are physically chatting it, and you're globally present. So and there is always a cost cutting initiative that every customer has right now. So you want to put that customer care people in, let's say, Philippines, and take out that role from US so that you can cut costs. But you are getting queries in English. Because let's say your customer, I'm painting a situation here. Let's say your customer base is all in Americas. So, but your center is in Philippines. Now they might not be well equipped with English version. So what you do is you have an Amazon transcribe. You type it in English, but the time that the person sees that chat, it would be in whatever is local languages. And he also chats it back with his local language. And it translates it and gives in the right word. Now, the problem with this is it has to be seamless because you're not seeing what is going on. And it shouldn't be broken English. It should be like fluent English and all this.
Right.
Was the technology that matured? It was not matured 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Now it's matured. I would say 90%, 99% accuracy. You will feel that you're chatting with a real English speaking person on the other side. Now imagine this. This is a very big cost saving initiative because they have taken out that cost from US.
Yeah.
It's a huge cost center for them and put it in a native area.
So that is a definite will go to deployment kind of use
That
case.
is definite will go to deployment. Yeah, to answer the question, yes. This is a definite deployment. And if this model, if somebody can use this pilot and this model is really well received, I think this will right away go in. But for some, and there was one on the other spectrum. Let's say there is one innovative idea that whenever an executive wants to get to know about the performance and all inside the organization, he has a chatbot to go ahead with a generative AI and type in, hey, what is the revenue for last year? Okay, 500 million. What was the revenue out of it for this product? Okay, this million. And you can deep down like that, right?
Yeah.
Now, that is a fancy thing to have, a good thing to have. I'm not denying. I mean, it will help you out. But will that go to production right away? Maybe not, because it's not adding to your top line or bottom line. It's adding to something in the middle, which is more of qualitative right now. Not really adding to top line or bottom line.
Right.
So to answer your question in one single word, Binny, if the generative AI is hitting the top line or the bottom line, from a business perspective, it is going to make way. If it is not, if it's just like, you are innovating and, doing that, it will probably take a little backseat. Because cost, especially after last year's industry performance, cost is a very big thing on everybody's mind.
Right. No, makes sense. So if you're in the line of money, you'll get prioritized. And right. Yeah. Okay. And earlier in the conversation, you spoke about how the number one problem is still channeling the right data to fine tune or train these models, right? So, is there a big difference do you see in the world of structured data, where data was still a problem? Now with LLMs, with the whole unstructured data, is it still that much of a problem, or do you see an entire new tool stack coming up, like a data catalog in the LLM space to deal with that? How do you think that will evolve?
I mean, unstructured data has gone a long way in terms of analysis of the unstructured data, I would say. With the MongoDBs of the world coming up, where you are putting it as JSON structure and all. There's a structure to it, but that has gone a long way, I would say. But again, this is my personal opinion. At the end of the day, this is structured data you're dealing with. Again, you are in the unstructured data world also, you're trying to get some structure around it. It's not unstructured. You are trying to get some structure around it, and then on top of it, you are doing something. JSON is, I would say, also structured in a certain way of its own, right?
Yeah.
Now, there is the problem I'm seeing, the structured data. Because as I said, I mean, so let's say for a legacy organization, which have been there for the last 30, 40 years, and as I said, they were more keen to do all this, customized solutions and all inside. So they have built a lot of such siloed customized solution. Right. Now, when you're trying to put it together, you're seeing that you are missing the consistency of the data, you're missing the quality of the data, and all this.
Right.
I'll give you a small example. Let's say you have a field in one of your data set which says height of a man or height of a person, and that height of a person would be 5 feet, 6 feet, maybe 6.5 feet, 7 feet at most. And you are seeing that data there at 15 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet, and you're talking about a million rows data set. Now, it's easy to solve, but it has gotten because of the how it produced the data.
Yeah.
You cannot do a good model out of it. Model is as good as the data, right?
Right.
So you have to work on the data first. The ETLs of the world will still exist, Binny.
Yeah. Got it.
It has to be there in order to have a good LLM model or whatever you say.
Okay.
Have to happen. I'll give you a quote. I was having a talk with a big C-level executive in one of the banks, and he said, Argo, all my services works really well in silos. I don't need to touch them for the next 100 years.
Yeah.
But the problem is when I try to integrate it together, everything breaks.
Right. Yeah.
Help me with that.
Yeah. Makes sense, because in large enterprises, people like to build their entire silos themselves, and
and they fall out of place, and they are summarized models that are coming up. Like so for your own particular purpose, you are integrating, let's say, 3-4 data sources. You're bringing some data from here, some data from here, some data from it, making it together. You're summarizing it in a data set, and on top of it, there is a layer which interacts with this data and get you the output. But that is really custom built. You're not making use of all of the things together.
Yeah.
Now, how do you make that matrix organization in terms of data is the problem.
Right.
Data mesh and all this comes in the picture. That concepts comes in the picture because of this. So what I'm trying to say is those are shiny objects. At the end of it, the data still needs to be well maintained and well cataloged, whatever you want to say, to make it good. Data governance, data quality, and all this needs to be there.
Okay, got it. Okay. So Arghya, I mean, at the beginning of the, before we started the recording, you were showing me some slides where you were, very convinced that we're going to see these applications all over the place. Yeah. I think it'll be helpful for the audience to see that. If you wouldn't mind maybe just walking us through it, that'll be very helpful.
Sure. Let me try to bring it up. What I want to share here, Binny, is how can you integrate GenAI into your common work? And I'm using ChatGPT 4.0 as an example. So we'll talk about a few use cases here where everyday project managers, we're all project managers in a way, can integrate it into their work environment.
Okay.
So let's say that these are some common tasks we have. If I talk about like meeting notes summary, report generation, then dataset analysis, risk analysis, cost and schedule estimation, cost benefit analysis, project business case creation, project decision making. So all these are kind of common tasks that we all have, whether you are in analytics, you are anywhere. So you do this on a daily basis, almost. Yeah. And I just put it as low, medium, high based on the complexity it takes.
Yeah.
Now my point is, you can use GenAI to automate some of your tasks. You can use GenAI to make that as an assistant to some of your tasks. It will not give you the whole output, but it will start you through. And in some cases, you can augment it. Right? Make sense?
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
So I would say with the current technology that we have with GenAI, meeting note summary, report generation, I'm taking a few examples. There are lots more of it, just a sample set. This can be automated pretty easily, and I'll show you some examples there. Sure. For this type of task, like data set analysis and all, it can be assistance to you. You can ask questions, it will give you some answers, and then you need to work on the prompt engineering on those answers. And then for certain very complex tasks, like project business case creation, you are trying to do a project and you have a set of resources. How do you make the schedule? That's a very complex task in itself. But this can use a little bit of imagination to propel you in the right direction. That's augmentation.
Yeah.
So what I do is,
just to understand, Arghya, how do you differentiate between assistance and augmentation?
I'll read this out. Read this out. At the assistant level, GenAI helps project professionals generate initial draft for tasks like cost benefit analysis, data sets, blah, 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 requiring moderate intervention from experts for completeness and accuracy.
Yeah.
Now, augmentation is at the augmentation level, GenAI empowers project professionals to enhance and explore capabilities, facilitating the execution of complex tasks, like creating outstanding business cases and supporting decision making. While this is important, While professionals guide most of the work, leveraging GenAI enhances outcomes influenced by their depth of experience.
Okay, makes sense.
So that's what. So what I'll do is, Binny, I'll take one use case from each one of them.
Sure.
And see how I have used ChatGPT-4 in this case, but you can use any generative AI language for that matter. Will help you in your daily task here.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
This is very nicely structured.
Here is the first one, right? So here is a meeting note summary with ChatGPT, and this is pretty easy. We all know how you can do it. So I'll not go through it, the whole excerpt. So what it says is there are like 4 persons in a chat room, and they have different kind of roles to play, and they're talking about some challenges that they're having in the project.
Yeah.
And they're trying to figure out what are the challenges, how to rectify them, blah, blah, blah. So let's say that you are the person who needs to send the minutes of the meeting. Now, this is very, very, very interesting. So what I have asked is, I have given that, and I've asked ChatGPT to generate a brief summary of the meeting. It gave you the brief summary. Like during the project management call, the team led by Alex, it understood who is leading. I haven't told him that. Identified a bottleneck in India, blah, blah, blah. I'll not read all this thing. Now, this is very interesting, Binny, this question. From the excerpt, can you briefly tell me each of the speaker's role or job responsibilities within the organization? So it gave me, who is Alex? Who is John? Who is Maria? Who is Chris?
Very interesting.
So it got that emotional tone. It got that, leadership words. It had that catalog and identified each one of them into a leader or an analyst or something like that.
Yeah.
It's all ingrained in the model.
Right.
Now, what was the tone of the conversation? Like it did that analysis.
Right.
And it told me the tone of the conversation was constructive and solution oriented. Now, this is a structured conversation. There can be a lot of interruption and all, but still, I mean, if you see teams and all, they're able to figure out what is the tone and all this. And then what were Maria's point? I asked a few questions. This is a sample of it. And this is the answers I got. So why do you need minutes of the meeting writing? You have this.
Right.
It is totally automated, right? So that's my point here.
And you can approach it from multiple angles.
Yeah, you can use your time for many different other aspects.
Yes.
Make sense?
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense, yeah.
So this is another one. This is the second pile, which is assisting. Let's say that you have a huge data set.
Yeah.
I have taken a small sample. It can be, really a huge Excel sheet, which you can analyze.
Yeah.
And then here is the data. So let me go through the data once. This is the data about a flight schedule for a few days. What's the flight ID? What is the airline, origination, destination, departure date, time, arrival date, time, duration, distance, aircraft, ticket pricing, passengers delayed, whether it was delayed or not. It's a simple data set, right? And I have taken only a few samples. Again, this can be much more bigger. Now with that, I have uploaded that. And I haven't used any SQL statements. You understand SQL, structured query language. Everybody understands that.
Yeah.
And I'm asking a few questions there. Now I just started with a overarching question. Please provide me 3 to 4 interesting insights from the data I provided you with. It gave me flight duration by airline. Delta, United, Southwest, and JetBlue each have 3 flights, blah, blah, blah. Summarized it quite nicely.
Yeah. And
if I look at, I've checked all this information there, those are correct. The destination popularity, which are the popular most areas, average distance by airlines, proportional of flight delayed by airlines, blah, blah, blah. Next question, please provide me a grid in descending order by aircraft type with respect to total distance in the 2 days that you have data for. It gave me who traveled the most. So you can ask a lot of questions, like which sector was the costliest? It understood what is meant by cost. So the more the cost, it's the costlier, right? So that it understood. And this is interesting. Look at this question, Binny. Is there a way I could have traveled from JFK to LAS? How? So there was no direct flight from JFK to LS.
Okay.
It took those connections, leg 1 and leg 2, and gave me exactly how we could have flown with that data. Which aircraft type carried the most passengers over the 2 days? And this is very interesting. Which airline was best and worst with regards to delays? I didn't define best and worst for him.
Right.
For him or her, the chat GPT.
Yeah.
But it told me the best airline with regards to delays was American Airlines with a delay rate of 0.0. The worst airlines was Spirit Airlines, 100%.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting, right?
Very interesting. Yeah.
And then this is the last one, where it's very complex. You have a situation where you are leading a project team with a software feature development, and you need to plan out the project, and you have a lot of constraints here.
Yeah.
So how do you make that a Gantt chart so that it takes care of everything? Now, this is a faulty example. Some of the data is not right yet. So that's I wanted to highlight that because it's not at the end of maturity. It still makes some mistakes. That's why it's augmentation. You have to verify the data and make it, but it pushes you.
Yeah.
So what I did was I provided the data and asked him, please provide me with a detailed project plan which will take care of all the constraints. It gave me this. It gave me the task. It understood the task it needed for the software development project. Database schema design, UI mockups, API development, blah, 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 blah. It assigned to the person. It says what is the start date and end date with some remarks. So it got me started. Again, there is this is all not right because one of them is I wanted to do it over 8 or 9 days. 6 months. It gave me a 3 months timeline. So those things can be made rectified with prompt engineering.
Right. Yeah.
And then I want to show another thing. So those are the things that is there, and I want to show the art of the possible with this type of enhancements there, with this type of generative AI.
Right.
So AI enhanced team dynamics. So imagine, GenAI is sitting with you in a conversation, and it is analyzing the communication in real times. If it detects a drop in collaboration or a negative shift in sentiment during the virtual meeting, it could suggest team building activities, virtual social events, blah, blah, blah. Then and there.
Yeah.
Predictive adaptability for project risk. So consider GenAI analyzing historical project data and external factors. If it project, you understand that. I don't need to read it out. Now AI can have creativity to solve problem.
Yeah. So
again, imagine they are sitting with in a brainstorming session, and you're out of ideas. Right. GenAI can put some ideas in your mind to start discussing with it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Emotional intelligence integration, if somebody is very excited or not feeling good or something like that, it can interject and make it corrected. Yeah. And of course, personalized project management assistance, right? So this can happen. So what I'm trying to say by this is there are ways to integrate it. You don't need to do it at enterprise level, but there are ways you can integrate it in your daily life and get started with and get a hands-on on all this great LLM models that we have.
Yeah. Fascinating times we are all living through right now.
Yes.
Yeah. So those use cases are very interesting, Arghya. One question I had was, so, when you talk to large enterprises about GenAI implementations, do you also see these kind of use cases that are requested? You do. Okay. Understood.
We do. And again, as I said, for example, the MOMs and all this, right?
Yeah.
Those are use cases which you don't need to build right now. Teams have it right now as a part of their solutions.
Right. Zoom has that. Yeah.
Zoom has that. Everybody has that right now.
Yeah.
Dataset analysis. If you can show them the power of this one, then imagine an organization which is dataset like Excel sheet driven.
Yeah.
They can use this. They can say, hey, I want to use this. I don't want my data to go out, but I really want to use this to understand this large data set that I have and I work with. Right. So it's just a instant connected use case that they will use.
Yeah. Makes sense.
But
Makes
again, the
sense.
fancier terms will not go to production, Binny.
Right. Okay. Got it. This has been very, very helpful, Argo. Thank you so much for taking time to do this. We got a lot of inputs and perspective on what you're seeing out there in the front lines of GenAI in North American enterprise customers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Binny, and it's my pleasure to be here and talk to you about this. Thank you.
You're welcome.